The Friday Rugby Preview with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to the Friday Rugby Preview. Robin Purdie joining me this week, and due to the Calcutta Cup match last weekend, there were no league matches played, but there was a Border League fixture, which of course we covered between Selkirk and Melrose. The result was a win for Melrose by 24 points to 20. Well, we're certainly at the business end of the league season now, with some promotion and relegation issues already sorted, but in the show today we'll concentrate on the Premiership Play-off semi-final. That's at Mansfield Park between Hawick and Kelso, where Kelso, despite finishing 24 points behind Hawick in the league, winning only half their games, could still be crowned Scottish champions. So, Robin, let's start with that scenario. Of course, no one's in any doubt what I feel about it, but there is another side to the story.
This is playoff rugby. This is the culmination of the season, and all the clubs were aware at the start as to how it's going to pan out and what you're aiming for. I genuinely, in the time that I've been doing this, it's coming up for 3 years, I think this is the most excited I've been about a game. And there are matchups all over the place, and I just can't wait for 3 o'clock on Saturday. Right,
so we'll put the politics aside for a moment. Let's concentrate on the game, because this is going to be some game.
Oh, it's going to be a serious ding-dong. I mean, Kelso, I would imagine, if there was a form table for the second half of the season, are going to sit second behind Hawick. Possibly Mar will be there or thereabouts as well, but Kelso are a form horse coming into this. There's 24 points of a difference between them in the league, but there won't necessarily be that in the second half of the season. Kelso really grew into the season when they found their feet. I think almost the way the fixtures fell almost helped them. They learned about what it takes by having those away games against the big three relatively early in the piece, and they worked it out. It's all right, okay. That and I guess there's a mental thing whereby that's the worst. We're 7-8 games in. That's the worst of it done. Where do we go from here? We know now where we need to get to. We don't need to go to these three places again. They need to come to us along with everybody else. So they've been a breath of fresh air for me in the top division. Kelso this season, they've massively added to it. But this is this is the biggest challenge in the club game. Of course, the last couple of years, and we all know about Hawick, October 2019, the last time they lost at home, and hard to see anybody beating Hawick at the moment at home, I think. But if there's one team, in my opinion, if there's one team that can cause them the most amount of problems in a one-off game, it's probably Kelso.
Yeah, and of course, the other two games that came really close, obviously there was Currie in the final last year, well documented that one. But GHA, you wouldn't have thought that GHA would have caused them problems, and they did.
Yeah, it's been known, but Hawick, the champion team they are, they've dug themselves out of holes. Musselburgh run them pretty close this season at Mansfield, but admittedly Hawick, I think there was a big wedding in the town that day, and there's a few boys off, so there's an asterisk next to that one. But yeah, I think Kelso have got the weapons in their arsenal, but I think Neil mentioned Neil Hinnigan in the podcast. They need everything going for them. They need to be at their best. They probably need a couple of breaks of the ball. They need Hawick to be off it a wee bit. But stranger things have happened. But if I was a betting man, or if I was a bookmaker, I ain't going to be offering many. I'm not going to be offering great odds on Hawick, that's for sure.
Well, let's hear from the two teams. Neil Hinnigan, Director of Rugby, in a second. But first of all, the thoughts of head coach of Hawick, Matty Douglas.
Yeah, what a prospect Saturday looks to be. It's a massive game for both clubs, and look, we've been in these pressured situations before. We know what's coming. We're just really glad to be back at Mansfield. It's been a tough 2 months playing on the road, and we've had some big games in there, some pressured situations to try and get that top spot, and also playing teams who were chasing top four. So we've put together some really good performances. I feel we're in a really good place, playing some really good rugby, and yeah, look, the talk is the pressure's on us. That we didn't want Kelso in a semi-final, but look, I'm whoever comes to Mansfield, we'll have a good crack. I'm really looking forward to Saturday's game. I think credit to Kelso, they deserve to be in the position there. They've strung together some really good results, and when you look at it on paper, there's two teams on form going at it on Saturday, and it'll all come down to who can deal with the pressure, but also who can put a performance in under pressure. And I feel we've been in these situations before. The players have trained really well. Our prep's been really good, and I'm excited to just get cracking. And the big thing for us is that we're at home. But look, it takes nothing away from Kelso. I think they're a side who are on the up. They've got some really good players in there, and they've got a great brand of rugby. And at the end of the day, we need to perform on Saturday. That's the bottom line. And look, if we can manage to get all these things right, then I'm hoping we're on the end of a result. But we know how tough it'll be, and the big thing for us is that we turn up and we can put a performance in that we're proud of. Team news wise, I've got a full squad to pick from. Obviously up to 22 on Saturday, so we'll be able to add a couple of boys, but no real injuries. We'll be going as strong as we can, and really looking forward to a game that we feel we can hopefully put some pressure onto Kelso, and leading to that we can put a performance in at home that we can be proud of, and hopefully we can get a good crowd down to get behind us. And at the end of the day, this is why we put the hard work in all season, is to win trophies, and the first kind of hurdle comes on Saturday, and hopefully we can get over that.
Boys are really looking forward to it. We've trained really well. It's a massive game for the club and the town. It's something that Kelso's not been involved with for many years. They've not really played at this level for around 30 odd years, so it's great to be back in the mix. An opportunity that's been carved by the players. They've really bought into the systems that Bruce and Kev and Doza and so on have all brought to them. They've went through the doors that have been opened for them. They've walked through them. They've given everything, and now they're getting an opportunity to play in a showcase match. And we don't want to be there just to make the numbers up. It's everybody's saying all the pressure's on Hawick and not ourselves, but we're putting enough pressure on ourselves because we feel we must perform and we must give it our best shot. That's because we are a proud outfit. We were very much humbled at Mansfield Park at the start of the season, and then by the time the reverse fixture came at Ponder, it was a much closer affair, and we didn't lose that game by much. But on the day, I think Hawick just about deserved that, and they've still been ahead of us there on that match. But so we've got to close that gap even further. So hopefully on Saturday we can do that, and that'll be by being very accurate. Our defence will have to be watertight, and we're going to probably need a bit of luck as well. But that's something that you have to make, and if we put a big performance in, and we can stay in the match, half time we're still in it, 6 minutes still in it, who knows, can take Hawick all the way. And then that really would put the pressure on them. We've got to get, settled into the match very early, and then get the set piece right, get the kicking game right. We've got to field things well. We've got to defend. All these things are going to have to be at the best they've been all season. If they are, I believe we can get a result, and I believe that if we have to go to a dark place to win the match, our players have done it a few times. I mean, Hawick have been in these matches several times now, and they've won all of them, so they've got a lot of experience. They've also not lost a match at Mansfield since October 2019, so it's almost 5 years of a record there. So, records are there to be broken, so we'll go there and we'll try and do that. I think that if we can stay in the match, as I say, for as long as we can, we've got a good chance. On the selection front, we're pretty settled. Unfortunately, Liam Tate's not recovered in time with his knee injury, and that's a real shame for him. He's had a cracking season, so I feel for him. Ewan Thompson is on the bench for the first time in weeks, which is obviously going to be disappointing for him, and he's very, very unlucky. It's just a tactical thing, and he'll play a big part in the game, no doubt, but I feel for him a bit. Cammy Thompson gets the nod in the second row there. The backs are pretty similar to what they've been all season, and the rest of the pack is as well. Bruce McNeil moves to 6. Cammy Brown plays at number 8. So a little bit of change here or there, but a pretty solid squad. We're expecting a big following for Kelso, and we really appreciate all the support we get from the faithful in the town. It's been absolutely tremendous support, and we've got, I think there's 16 out of 22 boys that came through the Kelso system are playing on Saturday, and I would think Hawick will be much the same, if not even more for Hawick. So it could be a massive crowd, and this match deserves a big crowd. So yeah, I think everyone around us to just look forward to this one, and what will be. But I'm sure our guys will give their best to count themselves, and if they believe in themselves enough, we might can get that result.
It's all about belief, Robin.
Belief, indeed. They need to, as Neil said, stay in the fight. If Hawick get a couple of quick scores up, 2-3 scores as they've been known to do. I think back to a game I seen them fairly recently at Musselburgh. They were out the traps really quickly and they blew Musselburgh away in that first half on what was a heavy pitch as well. So Kelso need to stay in the fight, but Hawick have got class throughout the squad, and it's an extended squad this week as well, which probably favours Hawick a wee bit, I would say, in terms of having a bigger bench. It's a tough one to call, because you wouldn't be astonished when numerous different outcomes, if Kelso snuck it, if Kelso are really, really on it and Hawick are really off it, then Kelso could do a number at. You just don't know. But the smart money, of course, is on Hawick. The league table doesn't lie, as they say, and 24 points is a bit of a difference. But Kelso, as we've said, they are a form horse coming into this.
Lots of prizes on offer, aren't there, for Kelso? Lots of carrots being dangled. The Bill McLaren Shield, which I don't think they've ever had before. Obviously, a place in the semi-final, and that record of going back to 2019. They'd like a piece of that.
Oh, you'd think so. I mean, the big ones, obviously. Who progresses into the final. The Mansfield factor is a big factor, but there'll be the Kelso fans will be up there in their numbers. Hawick will have big numbers there as well, and it's just going to be a great occasion.
Well, we're going to hear from the player side now as well. James Thompson, Kelso winger, and first Hawick's captain, Sean Muir. So, Sean, you've finished the top of the pile for the second year running. Still some work to do there.
Definitely, yeah. It's obviously massive to finish top of the table with the advantage that comes after that with a home semi-final. But like you say, we knew at the start of the season the 18 games are just a building block to what's to come. So a massive semi-final against Kelso. We know how tough it's going to be, but we're massively excited for the challenge.
Now, in other divisions, we've had Ayr and Preston Lodge, who are now crown champions. They've done exactly the same as you've done. They get a trophy, but you're not guaranteed one. How does that make you actually feel? I know rules are rules and everything else, but it must be frustrating.
I wouldn't say frustrating. It is, obviously, with the fixture congestion now, it's a little bit, that's the most frustrating part. You don't know when the final's going to be. So, we know what it was at the start of the season, what it's out to be. It's the playoffs, it was the same last season. It adds to the excitement. You get big crowds down here, the club gets a bit of money, but we know the job in hand, we know what we've got to do. We done it last season, so all the focus is on the playoff. And it is going to be some occasion, isn't it? I mean, a fantastic atmosphere. No, it's going to be massive. It'll be a huge crowd. I think it could match the final we had here last year. Two Borders teams. This is when you start pre-season in July. These are the games you want to be involved in. These are why you do the hard work during the 18 games to get to this position, and like you say, it's going to be a huge occasion, a massive crowd, and the buzz is starting to build now around the boys. And I think it's the first time that we've actually had two Border sides in a play-off. Yeah, I think it will be. I think obviously we weren't lucky enough in the old Premiership to be there, but since it's only been us. I think Selkirk have been unlucky a few times, but the two Borders teams this time is massive. And you've played Kelso twice this season, first at Mansfield Park, which was one-way traffic, 61-7, something that Kelso won't want to be reminded about. But then you went there to Poynter Park, different kettle of fish. They were very unlucky not to get anything out of it. In fact, they did get nothing, but they came within 1 point of getting a losing bonus and one try of getting a try bonus. But they certainly made you work for your points. They've improved. I think the proof's in the pudding. The results, they've beaten Currie and Mar at home in the last few months. So we know they've improved. They're not the side that came here in September, but I'd like to think we've improved also from that team. We've got boys back. We are a more settled squad. We've changed the way we play a little bit this year. Our attacking shapes changed. So we're a better team from when we met them in the season, and so are they. So it's going to be an interesting game, but we know the challenges they'll bring with obviously up front, Bruce, Grant Shields, etc., experienced boys like that, but we're ready for it. If we get our strongest team on the pitch, we fancy our chance against anyone. And you're fiercely protective of that home record that goes back to October 2019. That's an incredible thing that you've done as a club. Yeah, I think it's obvious if we stay undefeated between now and end of the season at Mansfield, we'll lift the trophy again. So, look, it means a lot to the boys playing here, playing in front of friends, family, and just playing out on the pitch for a lot of the people who have went before us. We know what it means. We know what the jersey means in this place. So it's a record. If I'm honest, we don't speak about it too much. It's not really brought up in conversations, but we know we're tough to beat here when we're on our game. So look to carry that on.
And some teams have run you pretty close. Curry, obviously, last year in the play-off final that we don't like to talk about too much. But also GHA at the end of last season, which was a big surprise, because the result of that meant, of course, that Musselburgh stayed in the division, in the Premiership.
GHA probably deserved to win that day. They were the better team. We were off it, but I think that's what champion teams do. They win when they've been playing poorly. People have their own opinions in the final. We got the job done in the end, and that's obviously all that matters. But yeah, teams have run us close, but we've always seemed to find a way to get over the line.
Your last game in the Premiership was at Philip Hawke against Selkirk. You managed to convincingly win that. I think a lot of people are surprised, probably yourselves as well, to get 59 points at Philip Hawke. It doesn't happen that often. But you also got the Bill McLaren Shield back, which was something you definitely wanted back.
Definitely. We were aware when we were going to play for the McLaren Shield. We knew we'd get a shot either against Musselburgh or Selkirk, the way the fixtures fell. So that's massive, getting that back in the cabinet. But we prepared for a very tough game at Selkirk. We knew it was going to be, well, we thought it was going to be hard. They've been a tough team for us in the last few seasons. They've pushed us really close with some good players in the squad, but everything just kind of came off for us that day. Set piece was outstanding. Attacking shape, some of the boys were phenomenal. Backline, Lee Armstrong and Andrew Mitchell were exceptional, and we, like I say, everything just clicked and we put the best performance of the season in. And you mentioned Andrew Mitchell, what a season he's had. Top try scorer. Don't want to blow him up too much, but he's been quality. I think 20 tries this season is phenomenal. He's enjoyed his rugby this season, and he's playing with a smile on his face, and you can see that by the performance he's putting out there. He's been outstanding. Well, James, this is probably the biggest game of your career, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I've had a couple of big events for Berwick, but coming into the Prem and getting into a playoff, absolutely the biggest game so far.
Biggest game for you, but biggest game for the club as well for a long time.
Yeah, we're really happy to be back into the Premiership, into the top league, but we set ourselves some standards at the start of the season, and we've kind of come good on them, and yeah, we're looking forward to getting stuck into the semi-final and putting on a good show.
Let's take you back to the start of the season then, because of course a team coming up from National Rugby, not been in the Premiership for a couple of decades. I guess a lot of people were just thinking, well, it'll be you and Jed and Selkirk and Glasgow Hawks, trying to avoid relegation. That was the thing, wasn't it, to avoid relegation? But you end up in 4th place. So the difference between the team back then at the start of the season and the confidence that's built since that time has been tremendous.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said at the start of the season that we don't want to be in a relegation battle. We want to be pushing up to mid-table, and if results go our way, get into the top 4, which has happened. So yeah, there was conversations at the start of the season about pushing up the leagues, but I don't think anyone expected this. No one outside the camp expected this. So we've really come together as a team. The first half of the season, results didn't go our way. Like we had 2 draws to start off the season, then a loss at home to Selkirk, which kind of shook the boys a little bit. But since the turn of the season, I think Jed at home, we've really sort of kicked on and come together as a team. We've had a couple of impressive wins. I think the Musselburgh at home win, the Curry at home win, the Mar at home win, they really gave the boys a bit of a confidence boost, and yeah, we've kicked on from there.
And the first half of the season you played the big 3, didn't you? You had Hawick and you had Mar and you had Curry, of course, all away from home. And the mindset going into those games, no matter how much you want to try and put it out of your mind, you're thinking, well, this is away at the big 3. And, you were soundly beaten in all 3 of them. Yep. But the way you turned it round, and when they came to Poynter Park, different story.
Yeah, I think going to the big 3 that have notoriously been top 4 teams in the past 3-4 years in the Premiership, it was a bit daunting for a few of the boys, including myself. Like, you go into Mansfield Park for the first time in your career, and yeah, you get a 60-something drubbing. It's hard to pick yourself back up from that. But then we got a decent win at Hawks at home, and we had them, I think, every 2 weeks for a 6-week period. We were going to one of the top 3 in the league, and yeah, like you say, results didn't go our way. But when teams come to Poynter, I've said it a couple of times to a few people, like, I don't know if it's teams having a bad day or it's a really good crowd. Like, the crowds are phenomenal, so teams don't enjoy playing at Poynter, and I was kind of hoping we might get a home semi-final, but maybe if we'd won those 2 draws at the start of the season we could have been talking about that, but unfortunately not.
Well, the interesting thing from our point of view as broadcasters covering all this, and I think the first time we really raised our eyebrows was the Musselburgh game at half-time. The ironic part of that one was that we were doing the second half commentary. You scored all your points in the first half, but then you did it again against Mar, which was phenomenal, and Mar haven't had a hiding like that for a long time, and of course Mar are the team that you could play, along with Currie, of course, if you get past Hawick.
Yeah, absolutely. The Musselburgh game was probably the turning point of the season. So we got a decent win at Jed, at home against Jed the week before that, and then the boys played so well in the first half to build up that score, and I think Musselburgh probably only scored with 10 minutes to go. I think they got 1 try or a couple of tries, and we always talk about starting well, and I think we've got the ability to start well in every game. It's whether we do it or not, and then we can kind of ground out those wins. But then alternatively, you look at the Currie game and they started really, really strongly and we ground out that win. So yeah, we've got the ability to do both.
And to come back from 17 or 18 points down, whatever it was pretty phenomenal against Currie, who are one of the best teams in the division.
Absolutely. Like, from me personally, they throw the ball about a lot. They play an attractive brand of rugby, and that showed in the first 18 minutes. We possibly weren't ready for that. Going into that, like, first 15 minutes, we probably weren't up to the standards that we should have been, but we got a couple of calls our way, a couple of yellow cards, and we took the game by the scruff of the neck and kind of put them to the sword the following 60 minutes. So we didn't start so well, but they definitely fell off a little bit towards the back end of the first half. So we took that on and managed to grind out that win, which was like one of my favourite games to play in so far this season.
Now, a couple of weeks ago, we saw Glasgow Hawks go to Golden Acre and beat them, and I don't think many people saw that coming. What was the reaction when you saw that result? Because effectively it meant that you didn't have to go to Glasgow Hawks to win it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a 3 o'clock kickoff, and news trickled through to us in the changing rooms at half time at Jed that Hawks had beat Heriots away, and that we just needed a result to secure a semi-final spot for a brilliant start to, like, a result in the season. So we kind of picked up the gears in the second half and put Jed away, and yeah, it's an amazing result for Hawks. But yeah, we got a bit of a kick on when that news trickled in, and we managed to secure that semi-final spot.
And that's what you've done, and that's the next game up. It's this Saturday. It's at Mansfield Park, a place where Hawick have not lost since October 2019. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yeah.
But they have come close. Now, Currie, of course, in the Premiership final came very, very close to beating them. GHA weren't far away as well. So records are meant to be broken, and I suppose that's been the talk, that, you know, you can make a bit of history, because not only could you get that record, you could get a place in the final of the Premiership against either Mar or Currie, and the Bill McLaren Shield as well. There's a lot of prizes on offer.
Yeah, that would be surreal to beat Hawick at Mansfield Park. Like, everyone knows that they've got an incredible home record, but it's a one-off game. It's a semi-final. We're going to be up for it. We're really looking forward to it, and I think any team's vulnerable in the semi-finals. So yeah, we're gonna give it our best shot, and hopefully we can cause a bit of an upset.
Without giving too much away, how do you prepare for a game like this?
We just need to come together as a team. The Hawks result was a bit of a stumbling block, but I think we possibly needed that. We had a bit of momentum, and we possibly needed a kick up the backside to get us ready for this. And
there is a belief, I'm sure, that you can win this game.
Absolutely, yeah. Any team's got a chance in a semi-final, so I'm really hoping that we give them a good showing, and it'll not be the same result that was at Mansfield Park earlier on the season. Hopefully it's a bit closer, and definitely hoping that for a Kelso win. I mean, you and your brother Ewan have slotted in quite nicely at Kelso, because we've been watching you a lot, playing for Berwick, of course, at 15s and at 7s as well. And you seem to have slotted in really, really well into the whole setup, and you've been welcomed into the swing of things. No, absolutely. Me and Ewan came from Berwick this year, and the boys took us in really well. We came in possibly halfway through pre-season, I think, and listen, the boys have been great. A lot of them are our own age, which helps a lot, but then you've got the older heads like Murray Hasty and Andy Tate, who's from Berwick, so it's nice to have that little home connection there. But no, the boys have been great welcoming me and Ewan in, and yeah, I don't think we've looked back this season. There's been a couple ups and downs, and being on the bench, out of the team and things like that. But no, we've stuck at it, and we're both enjoying our rugby at Kelso.
You've been playing league rugby. This is now effectively a one-off cup rugby match. Is there a different approach?
Not for me, but maybe the coaches and some of the kickers are thinking I might have to get my kicking boots laced up this weekend. So I think we're definitely going to go out to win the match, but if it comes down to a bit of a kicking battle, I'm sure Dwayne will step up to the mark and kick some penalties for us. If we need to grind out a win that way by kicking penalties like we weren't able to do against Hawks, then yeah, I'm sure we can step up to the plate and do that. We'll back our set piece and our lineouts. They've been functioning well the majority of the season, so it's down to Frankie how he feels the game's going. If the lineouts are going well and they run well on Thursday night, then we'll be confident going into Saturday. But listen, if you're right in front of the sticks, you're not going to kick to the corner. You'll take the 3 points in the semi-final and keep the scoreboard pressure going. What
a fantastic achievement just to make the semi-final, and
Absolutely.
Who knows from here?
Yep, who knows? Hopefully Kelso will win.
So you've heard what they've had to say. What's your own take from what you've heard from the players so far?
Well, I think that they both say all the right things. Sean will be quietly confident he's captain of the best team in the. Those are two players at different stages of their career. Sean's long-term captain of the best club team in the land, and James is coming up through the ranks. He was playing down the divisions last season. He's made a great impact this season. So they're both probably coming out from different standpoints. There's no pressure on Kelso other than within their own camp potentially. But yeah, I think both those players and all the players have got in both camps have got reason to be going into this quietly confident for one reason or another. A lot of players in good form coming into this, Andrew Mitchell, for example, he's the standout player in the league this season. You can't argue with 20 tries, but Kelso have got some guys that are in really good form as well. I've been so impressed with Tate, the scrum half this season. He, for me, if I'm the A only South selector, he's nailed on for me, Andy Tate. So yeah, there's good operators across a number of key positions that are all in good form.
One interesting thing for me, Bruce McNeil now wearing the number 6 jersey, and Cammy Brown going to number 8, obviously to try and attack this incredible back row that Hawick have.
Yeah, it's an interesting one actually, because one of the things until I heard that I was going to be talking about the big matchup at number 8 between Jay Linton and Bruce McNeil, two of the best in the business, if not the two best in the business at this level anyway. So yeah, that's an interesting call for Kelso. There will be a
cunning plan.
A cunning plan. It will. There'll be a possibly Neil Hinnigan inspired reason behind it, some kind of master plan. But for me, Bruce McNeil is still massively explosive off the back of a scrum. So Kelso are obviously prepared to give that up, unless it's going to be Bruce in a 6 jersey that in certain plays, their ball, Hawick's ball, certain parts of the field, you might still see him packed down at 8.
So how do you beat Hawick at home? I mean, it's been a long time, nearly 5 years since that's actually happened. Where do you target? You've obviously mentioned Andrew Mitchell. He'll probably be marked quite tightly, you would think, so that he doesn't get any space at all. And then you think, well, there's Jay Linton at the back, of course, who can equally, give you a power room. Callum Rennick. I mean, there's players all over the park. Obviously for Kelso as well. It's just going to be such an intriguing fixture.
Well, it'll be interesting to see who plays at 10 for Hawick, first of all, whether it'll be Brunton or whether it'll be Armstrong. Armstrong played brilliantly, I thought, in that game I mentioned before against Musselburgh. I think one of the ways possibly to beat Hawick, and this is easier said than done, is possibly to stop Armstrong from playing in whatever jersey he turns out in. He's been an absolute revelation for Hawick this season. Shouldn't be a surprise. He's a quality player and has been for donkey's years, but we all sort of wonder, well, Ethan Riley's away, what are they going to do? Well, he's really stepped back into rugby and stepped up to the plate, and I think Mitchell potentially can be shaking his hand a lot of the time as well. He's created a lot of space for Andrew Mitchell to exploit, so possibly stop Armstrong from playing might be one option, but it's hard to see others. I mean, they've got Bruce McNeil in the ranks. Can he get inside the heads of maybe some of the younger Hawick players? Can he coax a yellow card here or possibly a reaction there, and then all of a sudden you've got a numerical advantage? Who knows? Kelso have got canny operators, the Neil Hinnigans, the Kev Uttersons. He's seen and done it all. So these guys know what they're doing. But it's a difficult question that you've asked me. How do you go about beating Hawick at Mansfield? Because in all honesty, I don't know.
No, do many clubs.
I'm trying to think up sort of reasons here, but it's hard. In all seriousness, Stuart, it's hard to see because they've got such a strong squad. They've got such a strong second team, the force. They really just have been so impressive in recent times.
But isn't it fantastic that everybody's talking about this match?
Oh yeah, absolutely, and this is how it should be at the culmination, the business end of the season. But it's got added spice in this neck of the woods as well, because it's the first time, possibly for a number of years, that there's been, as I say, there's been a fixture of this magnitude, knockout rugby of this magnitude between two Borders clubs, and two Borders clubs that both on their day could come out of this as the winner. So it's a tougher one to call than it would have been in previous times as well.
Well, you'll be in a commentary box along with Dale Clancy, of course, and it's going to be quite an interesting match-up. We start at 2:30 tomorrow. 3 o'clock kickoff is when it all happens, all the way through until 5 o'clock, right here on rugbyradio.co.uk or bordersrugby.net. Well, there is another game in the Premiership to complete the Regulation 18 fixtures for all. It's Jed Forest against Glasgow Hawks. Jed looking to end a disappointing season in a positive manner with a first win, and Hawks going for a hat-trick of wins after beating Heriots on the road and then Kelso at home. Here's Jed coach David Grieve.
Picked up a few injuries against Kelso, so I think we've got about 5 or 6 boys struggling, so we'll give them to the very last minute before we decide a squad, but it's our last league game and we've got to try and really get a positive result that'll put us in good stead for next season and for the new coach and new director of rugby coming in.
Well, nothing to lose for either team really, so let's hope the shackles come off and the crowd get a bit of entertainment.
Here's hoping. There's no reason that both teams shouldn't give the ball a bit of air. Jed, of course, going for that elusive first win. Glasgow Hawks in a wee bit of a roll. They've kind of got their act together in recent weeks, a couple of really good wins. And
a few weeks too late, really.
A few weeks too late, that's right. They'll absolutely be looking to leapfrog Selkirk and get themselves one additional place up the table. Jed, again, more talk of injuries, etc. It'll be interesting to see what their squad is. It's hard to see, from what we've seen this season, it's hard, unfortunately, to see Jed beating a team that in recent times have beat Heriots away and Kelso at home, I'm afraid.
Well, there's also a Border League match tomorrow between Peebles and Gala at the Gites. Peebles have lost their 2 games so far. Gala played 1 game against Melrose, lost that in a double header in the National 1. Hawick 4 out of 4, seemingly cruising to the title at the moment with just 2 games to play against Gala and Melrose from National 1.
Yeah, it would look that way. Melrose will have something to say about that. They're 2 from 2. They've got a bit of catching up to do, but could have a bit of a playoff situation with Hawick there. It could come down to that. A lot of water to go under Melrose's bridge yet, however. But this is an interesting fixture. Peebles v Gala. Will Peebles go full strength? Given what's probably. Well, they've done it. They've done it before when they may have wrapped some guys in cotton wool. This is top of National 2 against the team in the bottom half of National 1, so it'll be a good yardstick this for Peebles for next season. It'll probably be a good yardstick too for Gala. Gala don't want to lose this game here with a view to looking forward to next season. Both of these clubs have got a lot of good players young coming through the system. They've got good under 18 setups on the go, so yeah, it'll be an interesting one, and it's at the Gites as well, so a tough one to call.
And of course, Peebles are due to play Aberdeen Grammar in their last game in 2 weeks' time on the 16th. However, Aberdeen play Orkney in the Scottish Cup, and if they win that, then the game will be put back to the 23rd. And then if Aberdeen win their next match, it'll be down to the 30th. So there might be a long wait yet.
There could be a bit of it. When you put it like that, actually, then yeah, Peebles have kind of got licence here to go as strong as possible and keep rugby in these boys' legs. So yeah, probably with that in mind, probably a good the timing is good for a bit of a hit out.
Well, that segues nicely into more National 2 news, because Berwick need a couple of points to secure safety in that division, but to be perfectly honest, they're pretty safe, 9 points clear of Aberdeen Grammar, who would need to get bonus point wins over Peebles and Lasswade and hope that Berwick get nothing in their final 2 home games of the season, which are against Kirkcaldy tomorrow and then Lasswade. Here's forwards coach at Berwick, Paul Pringle.
Obviously, it's a slightly different proposition now, given our game against Gordonians 2 weeks ago now. Gordonians travelled down with a very strong squad. They were big, physical, really a really robust team. But we've been working on that during the week. We'd set up game plans and strategies how we wanted to attack that. And to be honest, the boys were brilliant. They were really, really good at just kind of taking on board what Colin was telling them and how he wanted us to play. And it really showed with the impact on the game. First 20 minutes were really tough. As I say, they were a physical team and it was a bit of an arm wrestle. The second 20 minutes in the first half, boys just cut loose. Obviously our kind of big performers of the season, guys like Ryan Wilson, Ali Grieve, Duncan Hardy and that were all at the fore. But for me, probably the most impressive things were, other guys like Liam Robson, Jordan Jackson, who probably had the best 40 minutes of rugby I've seen him play, who really stepped forward. Jordan was causing them all sorts of problems everywhere he popped up on the pitch, and he deserved the scores, and the penalty try came from his move and then getting through and then just being taken out at the last minute. So it was brilliant to see these guys step to front. I think Robbo had 17 tackles for a scrum half, so these guys just give us real excitement for going into the next season. So we just want to keep building on that. I mean, yes, we kind of dropped away a bit near the end, but you're never going to have an 80-minute performance, and Gordonians were always going to come back. Pleasing thing for me, last 5-10 minutes, we're defending on our own line, and then right at the very end, it's Captain Ali Grieve comes up with a turnover. They come back down at us the last minute, and then it's Ali just showing his experience again, just to allow their player to come over the line, but then hold him up just to finish the game out. So, a tight affair, but you've probably seen this season we've too often been on the wrong side of those tight games, but this time we were on the right side, so that's very pleasing. And it just means that we can go into these next two games in the league just probably trying a few different things, looking to build on what we've done this season, and then probably just getting a little bit more enjoyment out of them as well, given the nervousness around the last few games. So, no, very pleasing from a coaching perspective. In terms of line-up for this Saturday, we're much the same as the Gordonians match. Young Callum Arthur will be on the bench again. We'll hope to get him some game time this weekend and just continue his development. And like I say, Colin's had them working on a few different things he wants them to try out this weekend. So in terms of between us and Aberdeen, I think there's 9 points now. They've got Peebles and Last Wade. So, barring any kind of major upsets, you would like to think that's a safe. But at the same token, we want to go out and finish our season on two home wins. So, yep, looking forward to Saturday, and we'll see what it brings.
Plenty of confidence in the Berwick camp at the moment against Kirkcaldy, but as we saw recently, of course, Kirkcaldy on a heavy pitch can do some damage, and they certainly fought very hard against Peebles in that match at Beveridge Park. Well, a quick word, Robin, about the league structure next season. We still don't know what's going to happen, but there are 7 options on the table now. You haven't seen them, to be fair, so we'll talk at length at a later time about that one, and to be honest, some of them are absolutely ludicrous.
I believe so, yeah. I believe so.
But, I mean, what's your own, just briefly, for newcomers here, what would be your own suggestion?
I'll need to study the document. I've not had time in a working day to have a proper look at it yet, but I don't need to see the other 6. There's one option, and that is the only option for me personally, and that's the status quo. As is every team in the club game where they currently sit, and the players the players that hopefully stay in the game and stay in the country, they go to whoever they fancy. They stay at Barrowmuir, they stay at Stirling, and they have a couple of seasons at in the lower divisions and help the club get back to where they used to be, the club team at least, or they go to other clubs and they play Prem 1 rugby. Heriot's boys will predominantly stay at Heriot's, you'd imagine. Ayr boys will stay at Ayr. They'll probably be the 2 superpowers. Some might end up coming down the road to the Hawics and the Hawics and the Selkirks, to play Prem rugby. There's no other feasible option to me. It's hard for me to hear any argument for any other option.
Yeah, I suppose Stirling and Barrowmuir, because they're in Division 2 and Division 3, would find it hard to get their best players who've been playing for Barrowmuir Bears or Stirling Wolves to actually come down 3 or 4 divisions to play rugby, and those players presumably would disappear. Some would stay though.
Oh, they would, and they absolutely would come back up through the divisions. They've both got great youth setups. Then there's an element of bed-made lying in it. That's where these club teams are. From the outside looking in, both those overarching clubs, when they got their Super Series franchise, they cast their club team asunder. That's how it looks to me, and that's where they are. And if we're looking at the Southern Knights, I think the best thing that can happen for the Southern Knights, and it enhances border rugby as well, and you guys spoke about it in the podcast last week, it helps to have a strong Melrose. Melrose have been good for the club game over the years. They've been good for the national setup, the players they've produced, all that kind of stuff. But the best thing they can do is rebrand at Melrose, take their medicine where they currently sit in the rankings, and come back up into the Premiership the right way. And they'll gain respect. Again, some might say because they've done it the right way. They've not just been parachuted in, because they're the one Super 6 franchise that I see that's not going to be able, if they did go in, they're not going to maintain that many Super 6 players. But if they get parachuted in the Prem and they don't maintain a load of players, they could take some unbelievable scuddings from the Ayers and from the Heriots, and they might find themselves sitting below Curry and Hawick in the pecking order, even in Mar. You would have something to say about that as well, as would Kelso, of course. So yeah, I think looking at from Melrose's point of view, I'd love to see them rebrand, take it on the chin in National 1, and build back the right way.
Obviously, the documents have gone out to all the clubs who will have their own say, but ultimately it's this panel, isn't it, of people who we don't necessarily know who they are, but they're going to be the ones who are going to be taking everything on board from the Super 6 clubs, and also from the clubs down below as well. And of course, they've said they want to try and disrupt the least amount of clubs as they possibly can. Well, to me, the status quo is probably the best bet.
Well, that's it. And to quote Dale last week, I think he said, do you annoy 4 clubs? Or do you annoy 46 clubs? It's a no-brainer for me. And if they're genuine, if they're honest about what they've said about as least disruption as possible, then the status quo is the only feasible option.
Okay, well, we'll be following this, I think, over the next few weeks. So lots of traction still to come right here, and of course on the offside line as well, who do a great job in informing people and giving them all the gen on what is going on. Well, let's move on to the East Bowl final, where Earlston are looking for some silverware. At the start of the season, they were looking as if they could win the East League 3 title as well, but that sadly fell away. But now they're back very much to contest the final of the Bowl. It's at the Hawk. It's against Edinburgh Northern, who they've done the double over already this season. Let's hear from head coach at Earlston, and that's Cammy Hill.
Welcome Edinburgh Northern to Hawk, and what's sure to be a very interesting game, where both teams having a win this season in the fixtures, so it promises to be a good game. Over the 2 fixtures this season, they've been really hard fought games. We know they're going to come down here with a massive pack and be very physical like they were last time. The game at home, I say, probably caught us out a little bit with the physicality they had. They were really up for it that day. Obviously the weather suited them really well, really wet, heavy underfoot, really good for their forwards and the tight, which they really done a lot. It was off a 9, very rarely outside the 10, just looking to use their big lads to batter up. But the way the weather's looking at the moment, we're fingers crossed we're going to get some good weather leading into the weekend. And if that gives us a chance of some running rugby, it's going to be a really good game, and I'm looking forward to it. So fingers crossed we get some good weather for Saturday. Squad-wise this weekend, we're missing 2 players in the Lismore game, but the lads that are stepping in are more than capable of filling these positions now, as we've seen throughout the duration of the season. As I keep saying over and over again, that our squad depth's really good this year, so anybody bringing in, even in games like this, they're not out of place. Huge weekend for the club, especially after the last few seasons. It's good to see that the players in the committee are getting a chance to challenge for a trophy. To a lot of people, it might not seem like a huge thing, but to the club it really shows the hard work that's getting put in behind the scenes all the way through the club, from committee, coaches and players. It's paying off, and we're going in the right direction, so it's really good that way. Here's hoping we're able to give everyone something to celebrate on Saturday afternoon, and regardless of what happens, I think overall it's been a really positive season. Just to even get ourselves in a position like this, it shows that the club's going in the right direction with a really good setup. Young lads that are keen to play rugby. Fairly confident that we'll get the win on Saturday.
Well, it certainly would be great to see them get something out of this one, bearing in mind, of course, the last 2 seasons where they couldn't buy a win.
Oh, that's right, and it would be great to see them pick something up, because they've given us a lot of entertainment. We've really been rooting for them this season, and I would love to see them pick up some silverware then, but it's going to be tough. Edinburgh Northern are top of East League 3. Earlston have went off the boil a wee bit, probably since the Christmas period. But yeah, it'll be and again, like at Hawick Kelso, it's got to be a great occasion over there at Earlston this Saturday, and let's see if they can go up and come up against this big pack, and with home advantage, they've done the double over them this season. Let's hope they can do it a third time.
Well, of course, a lot's going to depend on what the weather's going to do. He says that the one that he's been looking at is fairly dry. The one I've been looking at is fairly wet. So you toss a coin and see what happens in the morning. But I think certainly, his fears of if it is a wet, muddy pitch, then that would definitely favour Edinburgh Northern. Big pack that they have. But fingers crossed, we'll get a bit of silverware. That would be the first silverware of the season from the Borders.
Yeah, well, and as you alluded to, Earlston have marched on this season from where they were previously, and yeah, it'd be fitting to see them pick something up.
In the National Shield Round 3, we've got 2 Borders teams still in. Langham at home to Linlithgow, who'll be a National League side next season, and Hawick Quins, who are away to Broughton. We can hear, first of all, from Langham head coach Craig Hislop.
So last weekend we were up at Hawick Lindeen. Full-time score, finished up 50 points to 16. Great attacking rugby from the lads, and even more pleasing was the defence for the majority of the game. Just let one slip near the end. This week we were back at Milton, which seems like we've not had many games at home this season, so it's very good that we've got that home shield draw against Linlithgow, who obviously finished up winning our league and beating previous games against them. We played them in January there when they lifted the title. They beat us 35-5. Performance that day was good, so the scoreline didn't reflect how we played. And earlier in the season we lost out in early 21-24. So we've got a strong squad this week. A few boys back from the Lindeen fixture as well, so we've built on what we had up there. And we've been down in Carlisle. George Graham took the lads for a scrumming session and done some line-out work with us, so being valuable hopefully for this weekend. We're positive about getting a result, but obviously it'd be a tough ask, and we'll have to be on our game to put one over on the undefeated side.
So 2 interesting bits from that soundbite from Craig Hislop. One, of course, the fact that George Graham got involved with the boys, giving them a coaching session, coming all the way from Carlisle to do that, which is great to hear. But also the home game against Linlithgow, who've been the form team and obviously won the league, as he said, in East League 1, will be playing National League Rugby next season, but got to within just 3 points at home, and they're back at Milltown again. So this is definitely one they can win.
Oh yeah, they've won. Linlithgow have won the division by winning 13 games, out of 13. So you'd imagine that that's probably the toughest game they've had this season, or certainly one of them. So home advantage. Be interesting to see if the likes of Bailey Donaldson and Tom Hope are available for this game. I think they were last week, so I'd assume they will be this week, and that could prove to be the difference. I don't imagine they played in the first game.
Also involved, Hawick Harlequins, they're playing Broughton away from home, and here's former captain Adam Hill.
It's great for the club to go on a little cup run this season. The last round against Haddington was comfortably our best performance of the season. It was great to put in a performance like that against a team from a higher league. It was one of those days for us where everything clicked and came together, and we had pretty much as strong a team as we've been able to put out this year, which shows you that we can compete with those teams at the top end of the regional leagues on our day, and there's no reason why we can't put in a performance like that again this week against Broughton. We have changes to the squad. I think there's about 6 players that played against Haddington unavailable for the trip to Broughton. It is always tougher on the road, but I would say it's strong an away squad as we've managed to put together this season. So we're hopeful that we can put in another strong display and get a result and get one step further in the competition.
Well, it was a great win they had against Haddington, 50 points to 19. They'll certainly fancy their chances against Broughton, who disposed of Leith on the road. Broughton are a good side, though, and as he mentioned there, 6 key players not going to be with them on the road for this one, but good replacements.
Yeah, and Broughton sit in the division above them. They sit 3rd in East 1. Quins currently, I think, 5th in East 2, so on paper it looks like a difficult assignment, but they beat a team from the higher division. They hammered a team from the higher division last week, so there's no reason they shouldn't be heading into this with confidence. It'll be tough, of course, but yeah, what a journey back down the road that would be if they can come away with the spoils there.
Well, we're on air on Rugby Radio tomorrow at 2:30, right the way through until 5 o'clock for a 2.5-hour feast of club rugby. And you can tune in at rugbyradio.co.uk or bordersrugby.net. Full commentary of Hawick against Kelso from Mansfield Park with Robin and Dale. And also we'll have Hugh Brown at the bowl final reporting on the 2:30 kickoff between Earlston and Edinburgh Northern. Plus all the latest scores throughout the afternoon as they happen. Hope you can join us tomorrow. But for now, from Robin and me, a very good night.